Hello, friends, colleagues, and clients. I am Ron Bullis, the president and founder of Lifeworks Advisors, and I am beyond excited to have an opportunity to share this conversation with you. And this conversation is with someone who is widely considered to be a foremost leader and visionary in the wealth management industry today. He's the CEO and president of Mariner Wealth Advisors, a nationally recognized registered investment advisor serving clients in all 50 states with $33.5 billion of assets under advisement, 346 financial advisors, and 40 offices across the country and growing. He's got a long list of accolades and some stuff that he does outside of work, so I'm going to read here a couple things, and then we're going to jump into a great conversation. In 2016, he was named in Investment Advisor's top 25 influential people in the investment and financial industry, and in the Kansas City Business Journal's Power of 100 list from 2014 through 2019. Under his leadership, Mariner Wealth Advisors has had the privilege of being ranked in the top 4 registered independent advisors by Barron's for the last 4 consecutive years. He's one of the founders and visionaries behind the Scratch.Works program, which is a unique FinTech accelerator competition that helps startup technology companies compete and secure funding from large investment advisors in the country. Outside of wealth management, he serves on the board of directors for the KU Advancement Board for the University of Kansas Medical Center, Snappy Kraken, MRI Global Board of Trustees. He's a member of the Young Presidents Organization and is a board member for the Civic Council of Greater Kansas City. He's also involved in supporting several organizations through his sponsorship and committee participation, including the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, the University of Kansas Cancer Center, the Youth Entrepreneurs, the Global Orphan Project, Big Brothers Big Sisters of Kansas City, and the Nelson Atkins Museum of Art. But on top of all of that, one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation is I believe that he has a unique and compelling vision for the future of our industry, both for advisors and clients, and he shares what I would call an unwavering passion and commitment to putting clients first. Welcome, Marty Bicknell.
Thanks, Ron. I'm really excited to be here. I can't wait to spend some time talking about the wealth management business with you.
Yeah, I am super excited. We've been looking forward to this interview now for a couple of weeks, and I have probably more questions that I want to ask you than we'll get through today. So if we don't get through all of them, hopefully we'll be able to get you back on and do this again here soon. I have a unique spot that I want to kind of make our jumping off point for today's conversation. In January of this year, I was able to visit your corporate office and went up the elevator to your main lobby, and you have what I would call a really powerful value statement or mission statement right on the wall that everybody can see when they walk in. Let's just start by, share with everybody what that is and tell us why that's so important to you and why you've made that the foundation for your success personally and also the, outstanding success of your firm, Mariner.
Yeah, I would like to do that. Let me spend a few minutes, putting Mariner on the map real quick, and I'll lead into that. I think it helps the story. So I spent the first 16 years of my career at A.G. Edwards, which is a Midwest-based regional wirehouse, and left in 2006 with 7 others, so 8 of us, to start Mariner Wealth Advisors. And at that time, we just had one really simple goal, and that was to build a wealth management firm that we could be proud of. And so that really leads to the wall, and the wall reads, client first, associate second, shareholder last. And we have a perspective that really is through the entire organization that is, it doesn't matter how difficult the situation is. If you come at it from the perspective of what's best for the client, everything else just works out. And we really believe that. And that's something that, really drives our culture. And I want to be a part of a firm that stands for that.
Yeah, kind of speaking to that, I was on a phone call with one of your senior leadership team a couple weeks back, and we were talking about technology and some of the challenges that firms face in the industry. And I said, man, you guys are just putting so much over into this technology here, and there's just a lot going on. Like, why did you guys make this decision? And he said to me, without hesitation, because it's the right thing to do for our clients. And so as I thought about today's interview, I've got to travel to a lot of firms around the country, talk to advisors in different study groups, and you probably have as well. And I think that's one of the most unique like value statements that I've ever seen. Not only just like hanging on a wall somewhere, but just absolutely dominates the lobby and the entrance coming in. And I just think it sets a great tone for what you guys are trying to accomplish at Mariner. So you shared a little bit of the background from Mariner and how you got to where you're at, but I know you had, you're involved in the asset management space, you come out of a family business background. Share a little bit more maybe about the journey. So you guys have started Mariner, 15, 16 years ago. Maybe just share with us some of like the key highlights along the way. I know you started with partners. Do you still have partners today? Have you done some different things there?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So, the whole idea really came from the perspective of being frustrated with kind of the current advice model.
Mm.
Where firms are focused on products over the client experience and things like that. And so, really, what we wanted to do was create an organization that not only put the client first, but focused on that client experience. So things like tax, insurance, estate and trust, retirement planning, as well as investments. And, that led us down, tons of different paths. And so at one time in the evolution, we had kind of 3 separate buckets that we kind of were organized under. We had the wealth division, we had an asset management division that had 8 separate entities and about 35 billion in assets. And then the third bucket, which we still have today, which we refer to as Advisor Solutions, which is a tax firm, a trust company, an insurance agency, a retirement planning services company, and all the different components that we try to surround the advisor by. Then roughly 3 years ago, we decided that, the asset management space, is it's a great industry, but it's for somebody else. And so we went through the process of selling all of those firms. And quite frankly, it was a very nice liquidity event for us. And we then took all that capital from profiting from those ventures, because we incubated all of those strategies and grew from 0 to 35 billion. And
Wow.
Took all of that capital and reinvested it in going out and acquiring other wealth firms, which, kind of really accelerated our growth significantly, and allowed us to do more things.
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting transition to go from the asset management side with all the different silos to being very committed to the wealth management client-facing side. So you mentioned acquisitions. How there's a lot of aggregators out there, and there's lots of talk in the industry about buying firms, buying books of business, advisors retiring. What percentage or representative amount of your growth has been from acquisitions, bringing in good firms that fit the Mariner culture versus you guys just growing organically, in your client base with your advisors?
Yeah, good question. So we have 40 locations today, and it just so happens it's split right down the middle. 20 of those locations we've grown organically, and 20 we have acquired.
Wow.
And based on the pace that I see for the rest of the year and even into next year, our organic office opening will exceed our acquisitions. We're likely to do 4 to 5 acquisitions in the next 18 months, but we'll probably open at least 15 locations.
Wow. So this wasn't on my plan list of questions, but this is an interesting one. Living in the post-COVID world, or still kind of in the COVID world, for a firm to be committing to opening offices, right? There's lots of conversation right now about the traditional brick and mortar office space model being destroyed in lots of different industries. What's been your thought process with that still, and maybe your leadership team, as you guys are thinking about, again, broadening your reach, serving clients, putting clients first as it relates to opening physical offices?
So we think it's important to have a physical location, to have an address. We think it's important to have a place for clients who want to come in so they can come in. But to have an office that has, if you have, a 10-person location that has 10 offices, is probably in the past. We think, having drop-in stations, kind of think of it like, people have been calling it hotel style, where you always have 3 or 4 that are open. So if clients come in, advisors have a confidential space to go sit down and talk to them. But it's our firm belief that advisors got to be part of the community, and having a location is being part of the community. But it truly is going to be client driven.
Got it.
If a client wants you to come to their house, you go to their house. If they want to come in, you let them come in. If they want to do a Zoom call, you do a Zoom call. And this has sped up, the acceptance of all of that, and I think it's incredible.
Yeah, it's certainly been interesting for our firm as well, watching clients that might have been hesitant to do a video conference before now are very, they're doing it with their grandkids and with their family meetings and having happy hours, and it's becoming normal to, have video conversations like this, and thank God for the technology, because I think it's allowed us to still do really great work both for our clients and stay connected to people during this time. I want to shift gears just a little, because talking about, growing in, a post-COVID world and all the other challenges that are out there, looking at some of the challenges that advisors face, I think you have a unique perspective on this, both because your firm has organic growth and a large base of advisors, and you guys also are acquiring firms. What are some of the major challenges that you believe advisors and firms are facing in the wealth management industry today?
So if you think about it, the independent RIA community is very fragmented. It's mainly made up of boutique advisors. Now today there's several large firms because of the consolidators, but that's a small percentage of firms. Most of them are boutique providers. And the way I like to describe it is, the founder of those firms started their firm and got into the business so they could be elbow to elbow with clients and help those clients through the experience and help them achieve goals. Frankly, I believe that's a win for the client, but it's a loss for the advisor from a scalability and efficiency perspective, right? And so, think about it this way. When we serve clients, we have to do it with a CRM, a financial planning software, investment tools, risk software, the custodian. I'm sure I'm leaving some things out, but these are all separate platforms, separate offerings. They all have their own login. Advisors have to jump back and forth to perform their job. It's improving, but we have a long way to go. It's very labor intensive. And so I think, that's probably the biggest challenge I see advisors having.
Yeah, I think I might agree with you there, having walked the same path, but for a much shorter time, right? We started our own firm because we wanted to serve clients a certain way and be, to use your words, elbows to elbows with them, kind of, walking alongside them. But as you grow that firm, right, or as your practice grows, having that same level of service and dedication to each client, it's truly a difficult thing to scale, right? I think that's a challenge. And then when you add the tech piece to it, I think it takes us maybe 20 different software platforms to run our small firm, of 11 people here. Flip the coin a little bit, or looking at the other side of it, what are some of the challenges that you think clients are facing in this space today, with advisors trying to figure out how to scale with the rise of, FinTech and robo-advisors and, artificial intelligence kind of doing a better job than the advisor? Like, what are some of the challenges that clients face in the wealth management space today?
So I think from a client perspective, it's really understanding the experience and value proposition of different advisors in a sea of perceived sameness, right? So, if you see a commercial or an ad, the verbiage is the same. But the truth is really far from that. And, some advisors are incented different ways. Some are incented for selling certain products, offering, certain services. And it's really hard for the client to differentiate between, think about it this way. What's the difference between a broker-dealer, an RIA, an insurance rep, a trust company representative, or a bank rep? We all look the same to the client.
Yeah, that's a great point. I don't know that many clients would be able to articulate the difference there. So, yeah. So another question to this in terms of challenges, and this is maybe a little bit broader, but the average age of a financial advisor, depending on what report you look at, something like 58 years old, 60 years old, something like this. And our business is mostly dominated by men. In fact, I heard an executive at a conference once say that he jokingly referred to the industry as old, male, pale, and stale. And I thought it was a really interesting, kind of stuck with me. I've heard you talk a couple of times, and I've seen some of your articles where you've made a focus on trying to recruit next-gen talent. Talk to me a little about your philosophy and how your team's thinking and approaching the idea of bringing in a next-gen group of advisors that has diversity, not just in skill sets and ethnicity, but gender and niche markets they want to serve. And how do you build a firm then that can deliver the same value proposition and the same level of service while at the same time maybe giving advisors the freedom to, look very different in the future in terms of how they engage with their clients and who they are than maybe what the advisors of the past have looked like?
Kind of the best way to think about it is, the youth is important, training and developing is important, but when you focus on the fact of the average age and really why that's not changing is, I believe it's number one because of a lack of effort, and two is the understanding for the need of that diversity, right? So, I think kind of the main area of focus, for this component of your question is universities. Several are now offering financial planning as a major. It's important to the industry to start there. So if firms can just understand the need for that and give, people the opportunity to come in and learn and develop, I really do think that that's a great opportunity for the individuals as well as the industry. And our clients are diverse, right? And the best way to serve your client, to help that client experience, is understanding their situation. The best way to do that is have a diverse set of advisors. And you asked about the client experience and keeping it the same and how we think about that. So we have a strong belief, a strong philosophy that we refer to it as front stage, backstage. So you think about being on stage and being in front of the curtain or behind the curtain. We want everything behind the curtain to be a system and a process and a policy, and it just happens. Everything in front of the curtain, the client experience, needs to, be driven by the experience and expertise of that advisor and the needs of that client. So we go through a very extensive process of understanding the advisor's value proposition and client experience before we hire them. And then assuming we want it and we hire them, we don't want to change that. We want that experience to be unique. We do, provide all kinds of, best practice ideas and, opportunities for them to grow and be better at different areas. But we're bringing them in because of their expertise in something.
Yeah, that's awesome. I remember when I first started in the business, I was told I had to wear a white dress shirt, a tie, and a suit 5 days a week, or would never be successful. And I'm in a nice suit right now, but I remember meeting my first business owner client, and he was wearing blue jeans and owned a nice manufacturing company. And he said, "If you ever show up here in a suit again, you're fired." And I remember thinking, oh, so you don't have to wear a suit and tie and dress the same way to be successful. So that's a good point. So you guys are focusing on finding people with diverse skill sets, expertise, unique backgrounds, but then you guys are focusing a lot of time, energy, and investing dollars in systematizing the back of the stage, right behind the curtain, so that the output for the client might look a little bit different, but the fundamental pieces of it are there, the value propositions there, correct?
Correct. So thinking about the efficiency of the advisor, so trying to take that away from them. As I said, earlier, there's still a lot of heavy lifting that goes into that, but I want that heavy lifting to be on somebody that's what they do day in and day out, so they can get their own efficiencies.
So this is maybe a good segue to talking a little bit about the future of the industry. You were one of the key drivers behind creating Scratch.Works, right? This FinTech or wealth tech accelerator competition. technology is rapidly changing the world around us. What impact do you see technology continuing to have on our industry specifically, and how it might reframe or change how advisors engage with clients?
So as I kind of discussed before, I mean, being efficient and scalable will allow advisors to serve more clients and go much deeper in that relationship. And, technology will, also connect us better with clients. Kind of alluded to this before, but through the pandemic, the way we manage that relationship has grown dramatically. I mean, we rolled out 3 or 4 different technology tools about 12 to 18 months ago, 12 to 18 months before the pandemic, and we had 20% utilization across our organization. Fast forward to today, we have 100 because they were forced to. And, I think had that not happened, that would have taken years. That would have taken years for people to really adopt it and understand it. So I think, I really do think that the technology aspect of that is becoming more understood, and people are, more accepting of it, and that will definitely help with this. I said adoption. I mean, I really think that that's the key, because the firm can buy all the tools, but if they're not being used and being used correctly, I'm not sure what to.
They're just sitting there. Yeah, got it. Interesting. There's the last decade, maybe a little longer, there's been this explosion of robo-advisors, FinTech, a lot of it designed coming out of Silicon Valley to kind of bypass the advisor. That's at least, I think, the perception, right? It's a direct-to-consumer play. How do you think advisors should think about differentiating themselves in terms of explaining what they do and articulating? You talked about this a little bit earlier, but maybe just pull it apart a little bit more. How should advisors, and especially say if you were talking directly to me, a 30-something-year-old advisor, growth-oriented, how should I be thinking about defining my value proposition, articulating that to clients so that I can stand out and differentiate myself from both the traditional large firm on Wall Street, banks, and also maybe the robo-advisor free online platform?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I love this question, and you kind of hit on a couple of things, but I think the robo advisors. I mean, investing is only part of the journey, and I would argue that it's a small part. And as those platforms will tell you, most investment solutions end up very close to the same result. I mean, asset allocation is the primary driver of returns, and 5 different asset allocations are going to end up pretty close to the same returns in 5 and 10-year period.
Sure.
So when you're focused on determining things like what's the value of money mean to each client, what's their risk profile, what's their specific tax situation, do they have a specific kid need, a specific parent need? I mean, just the uniqueness of each of their experience and needs is really important. And advisors have to understand that their importance in that relationship, and be able to, as you said, articulate in a clear way at the same time. And there's in my mind no one right way to do this business. There's many. So in determining what your ideal client profile is, and what your ideal client experience is, and map it out, and then figure out the best way to make it clear and concise and articulate it as much as you can.
I think that we're starting to see, and you've obviously been in the industry a lot longer than I have, we're starting to see a shift in terms of how different firms or even individual advisors are starting to think about how they charge for their services and that value proposition. What do you think, or what do you believe might be coming down the road a little bit for those of us in the industry in terms of how technology is going to impact how we charge for fees, the types of fee structures, and do you see our industry shifting away from maybe the traditional charging 1% assets under management, being the majority driver of revenue for a firm. How do you see technology impacting how fees are charged and different models around that in the future for advisors?
I think that it's an interesting and great question. So I think, in the next decade, I really don't think the way we charge for our services today will change that much. There's a couple different perspectives. I mean, number one, people talk a lot about inside the industry about there being fee compression. If your value proposition is investments and investments only, yes, you're going to have fee compression. But if you're doing tax returns and estate plans, and taking people through all of those processes, I don't think it is. And we've explored with our clients, different ways of thinking about how we charge, whether we do fee for service, whether we do hourly rates, and all of our clients tell us the simplest way for you to do it is an asset-based fee, and that is consistent across the board.
Yeah, that's interesting. And so part of it is trying to, again, maybe differentiate from things that are noise versus things that might have, true staying qualities in terms of shifts in the industry. It is interesting to think about how technology might shift that. And our engagements with clients tend to have some feedback that's probably a little bit similar to yours, where it becomes less about how we're charging the fee. It becomes more about what are we actually delivering value-wise for the fee we're charging.
So what's interesting, so we believe in a significant allocation to alternatives, and alternatives means lots of different things to lots of different people. But I had a conversation with a client that was getting literally 50 1099s for an investment allocation.
Wow.
And we do their tax return. And the conversation was, we're not charging you by the hour. We're not charging you a fee for your tax return. It's part of the overall relationship. And if we all believe, you included, Mr. Client, that this is the right investment for you, I mean, we're helping make that decision knowing that incremental work is there. We still think it's the right allocation for you. So when you wrap all of those things into one kind of decision-making process, I think that helps the clarity of the process you're using.
Yeah, no, that's a great example. One of the things that jumps in my mind as you're saying that is, for startup advisors, for maybe even breakaways, as they think about trying to articulate that value proposition, maybe not having the size, scale, and resources of Mariner, how do you see them making a decision around maybe affiliations or associations with organizations like yours in order to offer those types of services faster, right? Instead of having to grow to the size where they can do it on their own. How should advisors, especially growth-oriented younger ones, be thinking about making decisions around aligning with, with firms or associations to be able to do that work?
So I think it starts with, what do they want to do? What do they want to accomplish? If they want to be an advisor first and foremost, then figuring out what type of platform to be on that has the best tools and resources to do that is, to me, that's an obvious choice. Being an entrepreneur, figuring out how to build a compliance department, an HR department, a technology department, all of that stuff. Some people are built for that, and those people should build an enterprise.
God bless them.
Right. I think most advisors should build a practice and figure out how and who to outsource those other things to.
Real quickly, I think you're talking about something that is an important distinction, the difference between building a business and building a practice. Pull that apart for me just a little bit more, because when I talk to young advisors, especially ones that are maybe frustrated with being in a traditional model or a large insurance company or BD, feeling kind of restricted, talk to me a little about how to think about the decision, or try and even maybe give us some thoughts that could help that advisor walk down the path of, do I really want to build a business and run an operations, or do I want to build a practice, and what that looks like, how to maybe make that decision?
So I will try my best not to make this a commercial, but
Yeah.
we have a division called Mariner Platform Solutions, which is a platform offering. So if you think about that example, and we have individuals that leave those environments. We support them in setting up their own business. So they own their business. They own it. It's an LLC, and then they become an IAR, an investment advisor rep of Mariner Platform Solutions. So they have their own brand, but they have everything we've built behind them, literally everything. And then their responsibility is to build their practice, they control the client experience. They control their hours. They control all of that. They're their own boss, but they have the tools and resources of a firm like ours behind them. And I use Mariner Platform Solutions as the example because I know it well. But there are 24 firms that do that.
Got it. Interesting. Yeah. And so I think that, what gets talked about there then is, again, trying to get clarity around what you enjoy doing every day, right? Do you enjoy rolling up your sleeves and helping clients make decisions and coming alongside them as they're, navigating their financial plan? Or do you really enjoy building an enterprise and trying to think about owning something? That's kind of how I've thought about framing it is in that, difference, how I want to spend my time, where I think I add the most value. So we're kind of talking about the future of the industry. Let's talk a little bit about Scratch.Works. I know it's just one segment of some of the things you've done over the years. So Scratch.Works being a FinTech accelerator, applicant supply, and then they basically compete for a bid offering from the 5 investors that are successful owners of RIAs like yourself. In an industry that seems to me where a lot of the RIAs, for instance, just adopt other people's technology and aren't putting a lot of their own money into trying to help find not just shiny objects, right, but things that actually are going to be better for advisors and better for clients. Tell me a little bit about how you view investing in like next gen technology and why it's important to kind of put your money where your mouth is, so to speak, in terms of investing in that.
Well, I talked a little bit about the industry being so fragmented, and all the different tools and that we have to try to figure out. While some of them are very basic, and there are large providers doing them, there are many components of our business that nobody's really tried to automate, or nobody's really tried to figure out how to get to the 3-person, 10-person practice and help them do it. So, whether it's marketing automation, digital marketing, allocation software. Just those types of things. I think it's really important that, some people refer to it as wealth tech, some people refer to it as advisor tech, but those spaces are really going to raise the game of being independent, so that the playing field becomes much more level.
Awesome answer to that. So do you think that and I know Scratch.Works is just a few years old, but have you seen it creating some interest in other large firms like yours to also start rethinking how they're maybe investing or making concerted efforts to invest in new technology or new startup ventures that are trying to automate or improve the advisor-client relationship or the client experience? Have you seen some traction in that in the industry?
I really have. So I probably get, I don't know, three or so calls on a weekly basis from advisors, in the industry that are saying, "Hey, I found this. I invested in this. I'm looking to invest in this. Will you guys take a look?" And they're all household name advisors that anyone that follows the industry reads about them in all the industry publications. But it really is exciting to see that grow.
So not to be a commercial for Lifeworks Advisors, shifting gears a little bit, as you know, Lifeworks Advisors was a finalist this year in the Scratch.Works program, and we were fortunate to have secured funding from you and your firm. One of the questions that I'd like to ask is, as you look at technology every day, 3 to 5 phone calls, a week, et cetera, what was it about Lifeworks Advisors that caught your attention and helped us stand out from the crowd?
So, I mean, again, we talked about the fragmented technologies advisors have. So I think there's a big opportunity in this space for a firm that's able to develop, really a robust client experience and integrate all those components in a way that elevates advisors who want to really provide that personal financial planning and solutions. I mean, being able to give them a platform that ties all that together will be amazing.
So that leads into maybe a quick follow-up question about that, which is, what would you be most excited to see your investment in Lifeworks Advisors accomplish?
I really want to see the future of advice today. So I believe that Lifeworks just might be on the right path in creating that digital experience that integrates all those tools for advisors and still allows for that, the personalized component of it. That takes those solutions from weeks to days.
I think you just gave me a new tagline. I don't know if I'll have to pay you royalties for it, but the future advice of today. I just scribbled a little note here. That's awesome.
Well, I don't know if you saw me reach for that one, but I was like, okay, I know you got one here.
That was a good one. I'm sure my marketing team is going to love that one when they see this. Wrapping up kind of our conversation here, one of the things that I always like to do when I get an opportunity to sit with people who are widely successful, not just in business, but specifically in our industry, is to say, if you were able to go back and talk to the just getting started version of Marty Bicknell, right? What advice would you give yourself for building a sustainable business? And then a two-part to that is, what would you say is the biggest mistake or pitfall that young advisors might find themselves falling into on this journey?
The answer to the first one is easy because it's from real experience. I mean, I would tell myself, don't listen to "we don't do it that way." This is always how we've done it. That won't work. I'm a firm believer in innovation is bottom up. And, so I believe culture is top down, innovation is bottom up. And part of that is creating the culture that people believe that. And, my advice, to people would be, this is a noble industry. And we're doing good things for good people. So, come, be a holistic advisor, focus on the client, focus on their outcome, and truly care about the results, but always put the client first and innovate this industry.
So for that young growth-oriented advisor, again, would you say it's fair then, if they're out there looking at platform options, that putting a premium on partnering with a company like yours that has this belief in innovating from the bottom up, giving them the opportunity to come and say, yeah, I know this has never been done this way before, but I think we could do it and do it successfully. It sounds to me like I'm hearing you say that should be something young growth-oriented advisors should put a premium on when they're out there looking for either a firm to partner with or to, join, as an employee.
Ron, I was going to say there's two kinds of individuals. There's more than that, but if they're, in getting to know you, guys like you, guys like me, absolutely. Right? We're putting us in a box is going to be bad for us and the people we're associated with. There are plenty of people that want the directions and want to follow the directions. And there's nothing wrong with that. But advisors who want to be entrepreneurial in the way they're building their practice, I would tell them absolutely, find a place that's going to let you be you and let you innovate in that experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. Marty, I've enjoyed this interview. I know our time's getting short. I'm sure you have a hectic and packed schedule. I'm just really grateful that you carved out the time to let us explore some of these things, hear some of your thoughts on both the future of the industry, technology, how advisors should be thinking about differentiating themselves today. Marty, once again, thank you for being here. Thank you for carving out the time, sharing your insights and thoughts on our industry.
Thanks, Ron. It was fun.